Hi there. Now I'm ready to start setting up the bulkheads, the stations, the molds, whatever you want to call them. The place where this piece of wood is mounted is called station. That is just a distance in the length direction. This is a station holder. It holds the station. That is what I have been calling it, but it could also be called a mold holder. Before we can start setting up the molds, we need to check that the strong back is level. And I do that with a long level. Here you can see that it's almost level. It could be elevated about a millimeter. So to elevate that small change, I put just a thin piece of plywood under one of the four legs. And now I'm happy with the level. I had to get myself a new laser cross as the old one was too weak. You couldn't see the lines any longer. So let's turn this laser on. And what you want to have is a line hitting all these middle lines in the strong back. And it's quite good already. Any small movements in the laser will result in very large impact on the strong back. It's easier to actually leave the laser as it is and adjust the strong back. Just moving it a little bit. And now it's hitting all the middle lines all the way over the whole strong back. So it's centered. And let's check here if we have the correct adjustment in the vertical direction. And as you can see, it's a little bit too high. And let's see how it looks in the back end. Now you can see that it's about 4 millimeters below the zero line. So I have some margin for adjustments, but it could be dropped just 2 millimeters. Okay, now it's exactly at the zero line. And that's not good either, because I wanted to have it a little bit higher, like 1 millimeter. Yeah, this is where I want it. Now I have to adjust the strong back in the horizontal line. Okay, now it's centered. Yeah, this will work. So let's start setting up the molds. So I start here from behind the aft end. So I want the zero line here to touch the zero line on this bulkhead. This is actually a bulkhead, not just a mold, because this is going to be incorporated into the structure. And I fasten it temporarily with clamps. You want to screw as straight as possible into the station holder. Otherwise the screw might pull the mold out of direction a little bit. And now I have put up the first mold, in this case also bulkhead. So now I can proceed, and you set it up by finding the center line on the mold and make that parallel with the center line on the strong back. So this is where the bottom placement should be. But as you see, this is not centered up here, although it's centered down there. So I need to adjust this a little bit. Now you can also see that the zero line is centered. Now you can see that the zero line is centered and this middle line is centered. Now I can screw this in place as well. And I want the screw to be as far apart as possible, because that will keep the mold best in location when other pressures or bumps will try to move it around. Now I can set up the next one. And now I almost did a mistake. It's important to keep the side correct, otherwise it won't be 20 centimeters apart. Now I have come to a place where I have to think a little bit again. This is the bulkheads that will be incorporated into the hull, carrying the load from the back beam, the back cross beam, over to the other hull. So these are turned that way, and now I will set up the spacing for the centerboard, and that should be aiming the other way. So I need to think about that and set it up like this, so that the centerboard case is facing outwards. And as I'm at the middle point where I switch sides, actually I switch side here from the forward to the backward side of the holder. I now need to fit the screw in through this, and it's a little bit tight, as you can see. I should have spaced this the same way a little bit further, so it would have been more space. As I'm going to screw from the side, I need to make sure that it stays in place and doesn't move when I screw, so I will use many clamps now. Now I need to think again, because here I need to place the beam holder side to my right, your left. Now I have set up all bulkheads and molds. In the next episode you are welcome to watch when I do some test planking.